Anis! Anis! Who the heck is Anis? That got your attention, didn't it? Now, to quote the 18th century poet John Hart Jr., "'Tis said the soul of mortal man recoiled to view Black Anis's eye so fierce and wild. Vast talons foul with human flesh there grew, in place of hands, and features livid blue glared in her visage, while the obscene waste, warm skin of human victims close embraced." Well, don't sound like you take her home to meet your mother, does it? The legend of Black Anis is one of them tales that's always stood out as particularly dark and grisly. She was said to have made her home in the Dane Hills in Leicestershire, dwelling in a cave beneath a great oak tree that she was said to have dug out with those iron-hard talons of hers. This place were to become known as Black Anis's Bower, a place to be well avoided, for it was said she would ambush unwary trespassers, concealing herself in the branches and dropping on them from above. That said, Anis was something of a proactive beastie, not content to merely wait for her prey to come to her. Nah, Annie were a right predator. If you were lucky, she might just take a few sheep, drag them back to her bower and devour them. But Anis hungered for more tender flesh, the flesh of children. She would peer through the windows of the cottages, reach in with those long, raking talons, and snatch them from the beds, spiriting them away to her bower, where a terrible fate awaited. For she would drain them of their blood, flench their skin from their bones, and hang it out to dry on the branches of the great oak. Once dry, she would fashion the hides into clothing. She were no Coco Chanel, but when you're a 7-foot tall hag, I don't reckon you got many options. I mean, I'd maybe use the wool from the sheep, but hey, we've all got our own vibe, don't we? Anyway, moving on. So bad were Anis's deprivations that it was said that many a dwelling in Leicestershire had but one small window, from which protective charms and herbs were hung, in an attempt to ward off the vile ogress. Whether these worked or not is up for debate, but one particular preventative would prove terminally effective against the hag. In 1941, an evacuee recounted a tale she'd heard as a child. 2 children had been sent out to collect firewood on Christmas Eve. They'd been out most of the day and night were drawing in. Laden down with bundles of wood, they decided to make their way home. That's when they came upon Anis's bower. There was a strange snuffling sound coming from deep inside the cave. Curious, one of the children peered in to investigate. Deep in the bower, something moved. Anis loomed up out of the darkness, towering above the children, her long talons twitching in anticipation. She let out a blood-curdling scream. The children bolted, dropping the firewood behind them in their haste. By some luck, Anis got herself caught up in the bundles, the sharp wood cutting into her flesh, forcing her to slink back to her cave to apply a healing salve to her legs. Ooh, but she would not be thwarted. She would not be denied her prey. She caught up with them at their cottage, letting out a shriek of glee. She lunged forward, but out of nowhere the children's father appeared, wood axe in hand. He hefted it high above his head and brought it crashing down on Anis's face. She staggered backwards, clutching at the wound, screaming, "Blood! Blood! I bleed blood!" Bleeding heavily, she turned to flee, but at that moment, in the distance, bells began to chime. ringing out for Christmas Day. Annis dropped dead, there and then. The terror of the Dane Hills was at an end. Oh, is there any truth to this macabre tale? Or is it just a story to frighten the wee kiddywinks? Well, we know that Black Annis's Bower existed. To once again quote Eiric's poem, where down the plain the winding pathway falls, from Glenfield Ville to Leicester's ancient walls, nature or art with imitative power, for in the glen has placed Black Annis's Bower. Now, according to Ordnance Survey maps, a cave topped by a great oak did in fact exist, specifically in the Dane Hills Glenfield region. An housing estate has since been built on the site, the cave long filled in. As local historian William Kelly recounts, on my last visit to the Bower Close, now several years ago, the trunk of the old tree was still standing, but I know not if it still remains. At that time, and long previously, the mouth of the cave were closed. So the cave existed. But what of Annis herself? The idea of a betalent hag thing seems pretty far-fetched. However, there's a good chance Annis was associated with the real historical figure of Black Agnes Scott. Ah, Black Agnes Scott. Rather witchy name, that. Reckon you're all imagining some crone-like village cunning woman. Well, I'll have to disappoint you, for Agnes Scott were a nun. An anchorite nun of the Dominican order, known for wearing a black habit, hence Black Agnes. Far from being considered a monster, Agnes were much loved. A solitary woman, very charitable, who maintained a leper colony from a cave in the Dane Hills. Likelihood is, the legend of Black Annis and the personality of Agnes Scott became intertwined during the Protestant Reformation as a result of anti-Catholic sentiment. Agnes died in 1455 and was laid to rest in St Leonard's Church in Switzerland, where there is a memorial brass in her honour. Another theory on Annis's origins is that she was a representation of the daughter-destructive aspect of the Celtic British goddess Anu. Similar names, eh? Could it be that Black Annis's Bower were in fact the site of local worship for pre-Christian tribes? Certainly ain't beyond the realms of possibility. No matter the story's origin, I think we can all agree Black Annis is one of British folklore's more colourful characters. Right, as always, how special is a pound of pint till closing? Pool table's free, as is the jukebox. Whoever put on ABBA last time, I'll find you. You're a bloody sadist. Charge your glasses and have a good one. See you next time.